Welcome to this session, Shaping the Future, the Path to Success in Digital Creative Industry Management. This is a new incoming program. We hope to launch the program in this fall. So my name is Danny Bergeron. I'm coordinator of the program. I'm also president and producer for Cyan Media, which is a Montreal-based production company. I will give this session with my colleague, Peter Skovbo. Peter is Director of Operation from Framestore and also a very experienced production manager, especially in field of animation and VFX. The format will be 2 times 20 minutes, and then we will have a 10-minute Q&A session at the end. Before we start, I'd like to talk a bit about the new program. This would be a professional development certificate. The program will not be a credit program, will be a certificate from McGill. It is designed by with the help of the main main people, the main company in the field. We've been working 2 years on the program, working in collaboration with big company and small company. We target basically all the digital sector: film, television, animation, VFX, video game, extended reality. This is a sector where Canada and Montreal is a global leader, and I think it was important to make sure that this sector can also have some program that help their management level. We have very good school in animation, VFX, film, television, programming. But I think we saw a lack of program in the field of management. Most of the manager in that field, in this field, come from production, film background or artistic background or technical background. And I think it was important to help these manager with a program that adds some management skill to their skill set. So hopefully the program can be launched for fall this year. We're planning five courses: digital creative project management and fundamental, digital creative project management and practice, financing and business model, AI in digital creative industries, and the final one, a capstone project in digital creative industry management. So you can take the 5 courses for the full certificate, or you can eventually grab 2 courses for, like focusing on just project management, or some company manager were just interested by the AI and stuff like that. So you can pick the courses up to the full certificate with the 5 courses. To stay informed, and if you are interested by the program, we will put a link in the chat room, and you can fill an interest form, and then you will receive information about when the program will be launched, registration info, and cost, and so on. So you will find that link in the chat room. My first guest is Peter Skovbo. Peter is a very experienced manager in big and small studio, especially in animation and VFX. and he's going to talk about scaling creativity. So, Peter, I give you the lead, and I will come after that for part two. And at the end will be followed by a Q&A session. Peter?
Thank you, Danny. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Right. Okay. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Danny, for inviting me as well. As Danny was saying, I've got must be 25 years of experience at all levels of management in the visual effects and animation industries from the studio side. I've also dealt with the gaming industry more from the as a supplier to the gaming industry, but have developed some insights and seen some differences between those two industries. So I'll just dive right in. I'm trying to condense 2.5 decades of experience in 20 minutes. We'll see how that goes. And all right, let's just see if I can make this work. Can everybody see that? Danny?
Yep.
Can we see it?
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So today's presentation, I called it Scaling Creativity. Challenges and dynamics of visual effects, animation, and in gaming studios. As the title suggests, the big challenges that these industries face and have always faced, and it's not just in these industries, but any other, it's how do you take the creative process and then turn it into a high volume output process and do it in a way that, you know, the studios manage to turn a bit of a profit and actually remain viable at the same time, providing a service that the clients are happy with and are willing to come back for in the future. So we'll delve into the vibrant world of visual effects, animation, gaming studios. These industries, you know, have created iconic films, and we're talking about, you know, in this one more specifically, the large sort of Hollywood blockbuster type projects. As well as the AAA games. So they create these films and games, and they face great challenges where they're trying to balance on the one hand art or the creative process. You can debate whether it's art or not, but there are some crazy talented artists in these industries. Obviously, technology. And then you need a modicum of business savvy and management savvy to be able to you know, come through on the other side. So we'll see how essentially small studios manage to excel with versatile artists, how they struggle to scale, and then how, you know, large studios manage to leverage a specialization, but then they have to contend with the risk inherent in wafer thin margins. So we'll just go right in. So as a way of introduction, the art and chaos of creative studios. You know, these studios have to balance, as I said, creativity, the creative impulse, both internally with a bunch of super creative and talented people internally, but also usually, especially if we're talking about the Montreal ecosystem, the creativity on the client side. There is some in-house, there are some in-house projects, but really the industries that were developed in the last 30 years in Montreal were in the service industry, and so it's really at the service of other clients. As I said, there's they have to balance technology, which has its whole, you know, pack of challenges, both financial, as far as implementation, as far as, you know, how to use them. They have to be able to balance quality. What is quality? How do you define quality? And how do you actually manage to make sure that your output, your quality of output is consistent? And the big challenge for a lot of these places is obviously scalability. Small studios tend to, you know, they tend to fall into two types of categories. One where they will do one thing and specifically try to focus on one thing. That can be compositing, it can be matte painting, it can be animation, but really or rigging. There's any number of small outfits out there that really sort of tend to be niche and do one thing. And then you come across studios that want to actually try to do the whole gamut of production, which goes from art direction and the look development through all the different stages of production, was creating assets, so modeling, texturing, and all that, through to animation, through to compositing. And if you're a small studio, they tend to rely on well-rounded, versatile generalists. Larger studios, they are kind of obliged to break that process down into smaller incremental steps. And the larger the studio, the more those steps are sort of highly specialized. For instance, at Framestore, we're at over 20 specific teams just in the creative process, and each team itself is highly specialized. So the idea is, how do you actually get all this to work together? How do you manage the complexity of all these moving parts when you scale up and deliver consistent, high volume, high quality output? It's a high risk and a high stakes game. And if anything has shown us in the last year, the number of studios that have gotten into trouble demonstrates that it is not an easy game to play. Let's see.
Oh, you're on mute, Peter.
Sorry about that. See if this works. That good?
Yep.
Okay. So to ensure quality, like I said, the small studios will focus either on specific tasks, or they will employ generalists who handle multiple stages of asset shot creation. Benefits are potential high quality, consistent work. If you have a team of, either you're doing one thing and you do it well, or you have a team of all rounders, but a smaller team, same thing, you can get high quality, consistent work out of that team. And when you're a small team and a small studio, you have a greater flexibility and a greater ability to absorb any extraneous shocks that come. The small studios tend to be run with the founder or a group of crackpot artists, and they can, if there's a sudden crunch to the work, they'll work 100 hours a week for a few weeks to get a show out the door, because that's sort of their passion. That's how they do it. Where it becomes a bit of a challenge is if they want to go from being a specialized studio to a more all-rounder studio. Say if they start with comp and then they integrate matte painting, that's one thing. But if they want to start integrating animation, it's a whole different ball game. That becomes more complicated. So there's one aspect, which is it makes it difficult to broaden the range of work. And another problem is there's a rarity of strong all-rounders. So if you have a group of 12 all-rounders, that's great. All-rounders being artists that can do jack of all trades, they can do all sorts of different aspects of the production process. But if you have to scale up to 100, having 100 strong all-rounders that all can output consistently using the same tools and same processes, that becomes a challenge. So successful small studios tend to experience market pressures to grow. If you're a small studio and you're delivering great work, sooner or later, a customer is going to come along and say, I have this big show, I love working with you, but can you handle 3 times more work than you're used to? And then obviously the studio is confronted with a dilemma. The choices they have are pretty stark. One is they can turn away work and say, you know what, we like to stay small. We can take half the work, we can take a third, or we'll just not take it because it's too much risk. Well, for that, the impact is obviously it's a loss of revenue and opportunity cost. And there's a risk to client retention. If you say thank you, but you pass on the work, you're sort of throwing the client into the laps of another studio. There's a risk inherent in that. And also, if you're turning away work and your artists are working in your studio saying, I want to work on these great projects. So you just turn it away. I'm going to go work at the studio where they've sent the work. You have a risk there to talent retention. If you hire more and perhaps less skilled generalists, there's a risk to the project success. There's a risk in terms of the consistency of the work that is being output. And obviously, when you do that, there's a risk to client retention. Oh, but we thought you were going to do great work like you've been doing for all these years, and now we're giving you more work, but it's coming out uneven. I don't know if I want to still work with you, blah, blah, blah. That's one risk. And another choice is stepping out of a studio's area of focus, like I said, out of the comfort zone. We're compositing studio, or we do just animation, but then we're going to now go towards a larger, broader service offer. There's obviously a risk to project success, and if you fall on your face, then there's a risk to client retention.
Sorry, it muted again. I'm so sorry.
Sorry about that. No, it's fine. I'm sorry about that. When the studios grow, inevitably they compartmentalize into numerous highly specialized departments, from previs all the way to final output. It can be anywhere between 20 to 25, 30 specific departments. All departments are supposed to work in sync, and the theoretical benefits of that obviously will include higher quality of the work. And by quality, it really is, for the same amount of money invested in the work, the output is just at a higher level. A more consistent output. You don't have sort of higher and lower quality of work that is being output. And the ability to handle large scale projects. And just to throw a couple examples out here, but the industry is full of them. Avatar Part 2, Dune Part 2 that won some Oscars, Game of Thrones that was done here in Montreal by Rodeo, Assassin's Creed that was done by Ubisoft as well here in Montreal. So really, that's the secret to being able to output these shows. And when we're talking about shows such as these, we're talking about 1,000, 2,000 shots, which is a mammoth undertaking.
Oh, you're on mute again, Peter.
I think every time I try to switch slides, I hit one button and it just mutes me. So I'm sorry about that, but please bear with me. Once you're inside the large studio ecosystem, you've got a series of teams. You've got your CG artists, as I said, up to 20 specialized departments. That can be previs, modeling, texturing, rigging, all the way down to compositing even after that. You've got a team, those CG artists are supervised by a team of supervisors. That'd be your visual effects supervisor, creature supervisor, CG supervisor, so computer graphics supervisor, animation supervisors, comp supervisors. So they basically are, they have heads of departments that are sort of managing those departments, and then they're all supervised by these supervisors on top of that. Their supervisors, really, their goal is to be able to ensure the qualitative output, and normally technically the technical output, although it's not always the case. That's in terms of doing the actual work, but to stay on target, to stay focused, to deliver on budget, you need obviously the production aspect of that whole process. And that falls to the production team, usually head by the head of production. But then you've got producers, you've got the associate producers, line producers, coordinators, all the way down to production assistants. And these are the people that really help to enable, make sure that all the tasks are properly assigned, that everybody knows what their marching orders are, that they understand what their timelines are, what their deliverables are, and then there's a constant follow-up on that front. It's a huge undertaking. If you consider a show might have 1,000 shots and it might have 200 assets, and it goes through 20 different steps in the shot steps and another 15 for the assets. We're looking at tens of thousands of steps that need to be maintained and moved forward, so that things actually come out on the other end on time and on budget. It's logistically a huge undertaking. Around those, these studios obviously need support teams that tend to not be. We tend to forget about them, but they're huge. Obviously, the HR team, the recruitment team. You can't build a show if you don't have people and fannies in seats doing the work. So the recruitment is critical. Obviously, finance, payroll, IT, software, pipeline, all the support teams, the tech teams are absolutely critical. And then above that, you've got the more strategic aspect of things, which fall down to the CEOs or COOs or heads of studio or whatnot. So you have layers of management to control all aspects of production and operations. I'm not muted. Good. So why specialize should normally win it? 1 second. So why a specialization should normally win it? The theory behind it is that if you're able to scale and scale up, you've got an ease of, there's an ease of adding specifically trained talent to specific departments. Getting all-rounders is more complicated. But the schools that we have, say in Montreal and Quebec and elsewhere in the world, that sometimes they'll tend to output all, people who have a well-rounded skill set. But also sometimes or frequently you'll have people coming out of school saying, I'm specializing in compositing, I'm specializing in animation, I'm specializing in lighting, etc. And when you get into a training program, these people tend to be trained for more specific tasks. Hiring them and then plugging them into a pipeline and a work process that is already well oiled into a team that is specialized, where they can sort of find their markings and also be trained by fellow workers is technically a recipe for success. Consistency. You want to make sure that you have balanced teams in terms of the levels of seniority, between juniors and intermediates or seniors. The easier tasks you tend to get to juniors, that trains the juniors. Intermediates, they do most of the bulk of the work, and the seniors, they're really the harder stuff that juniors and intermediates might never be able to actually output. So when you have a balanced team or properly balanced team, that allows you to ensure a predictable quality for your output at a reasonable cost. Some studios tend to not have any juniors, saying I'm just dealing with intermediates and seniors. So you get great quality, but your costs tend to rise, and then it gets you into trouble. So it really is a balancing act. When you specialize, you can scale, and then you achieve economies of scale. You get, theoretically, through the economies of scale, you can start developing higher margins through these optimized workflows. Something that a smaller studio, it'll take them 12 hours to do. In a larger studio, it'll take them 10 hours to do for that specific task because of optimized workflows and the tools. And by doing that, if you sell it at 12 hours and it takes you 10 hours to do it, you start, creating a bit of buffer there that can translate into a profit down the line. And what I've noticed when you're dealing with these really big studios, and these are like the frame stores or the rodeos or the Wētās of this world, whether it's MacGuff in France for animation, or the Ubisofts of this world. When you have that size and the ability to deliver a large volume of work and be a reliable partner to these studios and these clients, you have a reputation, and you can actually charge a bit of a premium on the work that you're doing, because you are a bit of an insurance policy that their show is going to be completed. Whether I say show, it's like a movie or a TV series or a game, that you can actually deliver it. And that premium is something that you can charge to ensure that they're satisfied and you're satisfied, and the work gets done. Technology. Obviously, I've been talking a lot about HR, human resources, and the artists, but nothing can be done if you don't have a strong backbone, technological backbone. The whole work is actually predicated around being able to use this technology and to leverage this technology for the creation of the work. And so the tools that are created, there are some that are off the shelf. Many are custom-made tools. They are supposed to help in automating the asset and shot creation, as far as the artists are concerned and the pipeline is concerned. They're supposed to help automate asset and shot tracking. That goes to the production teams, those who are supposed to be able to follow the progression of the work and make sure that the work is actually progressing as it's supposed to. Those tools are absolutely critical. And then obviously you've got budgeting tools, HR tools, IT tracking tools. All of these are part of your everyday life in one of these studios. And theoretically, they're all supposed to be able to talk to each other, see the asset shot tracking, and are supposed to be able to talk to HR tracking tools. Same with budget tracking tools. Same with the IT tracking tools. Technically, they're all supposed to talk to each other. Do they always? No. Depends on how far advanced the studio is in its integration or its technological integration. But that is sort of where studios tend to want to move. The purpose of pipelines. So the pipelines, really, if we get back to the more, nitty gritty, we want to reduce. In an ideal world, we'd like to eliminate the human error factor, but that's just not possible. People who talk about eliminating it, they'll have to be confronted with reality to realize it's not possible, but you can reduce it to a certain extent. You want to maintain a technical control of the throughput. The purpose of pipelines is also to make it easier to work within a pipeline and within certain criteria, as opposed to working outside of the pipeline. And if you can do that, then you can sort of maintain the technical integrity of what you're actually working on and have that come through all the way till the end, so that by the time you get to the end of the production process, it doesn't blow up because your asset is too heavy, or you're using the wrong shader, or whatnot. There could be a million reasons why something might break down the line. That's what these pipelines are meant to help you control. They assist in project management. There are tools such as Shotgun or F-Track, or you have internal tools that are essentially allow you to track all of the aspects of the advancement of a project. So that's can be considered part of the pipeline. And also, if you're in a pipeline, you have automatic publishing processes, you have automatic tech check processes. And the goal there is that it allows you to streamline and then to accelerate the workflows and the publishing processes, so that you can go from one step of the production process onto the next one. And by the end of the day, the pipeline is also supposed to assist you in harmonizing the output. You don't want, out of 600 shots, you don't want 200 gorgeous shots, 200 nice shots, 150 so-so shots, and then another package of garbage shots that you have to redo. You like it all to be nice and harmonized. There are production processes for that, but obviously the pipeline is meant to assist with that. That's all the theory. The reality is that production is can be very chaotic in the best of times. And it's just part and parcel of trying to take the creative process, fit it into a box, a number of thousands upon thousands of small boxes, and moving these boxes along, and then having it come out on the final end according to plan. There's a number of things that can come in and wreck the process. Not wreck it, but throw some sand, I guess, in the gears and make it a bit more complicated. There's some external disruptions, and we have some recent ones that we can talk about. There are boom and bust cycles. For instance, if we're talking about big tentpole projects, we've got something known as, say, Marvel fatigue, but it can be Star Wars fatigue. It can be, maybe one day there'll be Avatar fatigue. Who knows? Essentially, the market is no longer responding to a certain type of output. And due to that, well, there are decisions that can be made by the studios to pull back on that kind of output, and the demand for work no longer is there. That is something the industry is going through at this moment, not specifically Marvel fatigue, but essentially a reduction in overall demand for high cost visual effects laden projects. COVID was a disruptive factor. At first, it shut everything down, And then when the streamers realized that they had a captive audience at home and that they could turn that into additional subscribers, they pivoted completely and then threw tons of money into production, causing all sorts of other disruptions in the industry and even inflating salaries artificially. There was something called the Netflix effect, which was basically Netflix was asking for so much work that artists were getting 3 or 4 at any point in time had 3 or 4 offers on the table, and then they would just sort of leverage that into higher and higher salaries. Recently, we had writers and actors strikes. You might have heard of. Those have been laid to rest, but that slowed down production for a while, and that was a huge source of stress for the studios. In Quebec, our brilliant government decided to reduce tax credits for the services in visual effects animation. I think also in gaming, and that was probably the worst decision to do at the worst time. So the studios are also contending with that at the moment. And then now we have, just read this week, Trump announcing 100% tariffs for productions that are performed outside of the United States. How does that actually get implemented? Will it all get implemented? Who knows? But that is a big source of stress as well. There are internal issues. Very frequently, we hear that there have been bidding issues or underbidding. It can be a number of reasons. It can just be human error that happens. It can be underestimating the scope of work, which can be one. It can be we are being sold the scope of work as being less than what it's actually going to be, and clients tend to do that. Oh, it's only this or it's only that. Sometimes also underbidding is part of business development. Sometimes you underbid to get the job and build a reputation. That tends to happen for smaller studios that are still trying to grow or might have grown and suddenly are big, but they don't have enough work to justify keeping all their staff, and then they're just trying to figure out a way to make this whole thing work. So they'll underbid to build a reputation. They have staff and they don't want the staff to leave and they don't want to lose money on the staff. So they'll underbid to keep staff busy. So they'll cut out their profit margin for that, but at least their staff will have work and they'll try to keep them happy. Or they're trying to win a larger future contract from a client. How about you do this project? I don't have a lot of budget, but if you do this one, I have a big fat one down the line and then you'll be first in line for that one. I've heard them all. Always a dangerous process. Does it guarantee success? No. Does it guarantee failure? No. But really, it's something that you have to be very, very careful with. Internally, you have management issues, miscommunication. You saw all the different departments that we have, and all the different managers and managing positions, and maintaining communication across all those departments, and a fluid communication and a clear communication is absolutely critical. And that's what some of these pipelines are there for. Sometimes there's mission creep in a project that can tend to be a client thing where they will sort of push for more and more than what has actually been agreed to in an original contract. Something that's very insidious and something that needs to be nipped in the bud as soon as that happens, but it does happen. And also, if people will say, well, the new technologies or new technological developments will come and save the day. It's an age-old adage, and it just doesn't tend to work. If we have new technologies that make us more efficient, well, very quickly the industry is going to wise up to it, or the clients are going to wisen up to it. And so instead of developing greater margins based on more efficiencies that technological innovations bring to the table, the clients will tend to ask for more quality or more of something. So they actually tend to move the goalposts. So for the same budget, $200 million 20 years ago bought you one thing. All the technology has made us so much better. Well, $200 million today doesn't make it so that you actually can make more money on the project. You just have more to output. And that is like a constant. It doesn't change. And so the question really is, how will AI do that? Will AI move the goalposts? I think Danny will speak to that a little bit after I'm done here. the key levers to any studio, obviously, in mastering this management maze, making sure initially that your project bidding has been done properly and responsibly. So that's a business development initiative, and obviously it goes hand in hand with upper management. It's not true. People say, well, you guys are making so much money and blah, blah, blah. And then if you have to let people go, it's out of greed. It's, in my experience, it really comes down to making decisions that are really to the benefit of the survival of the studios. I can go into that a long time, but I unfortunately don't have the time here. But if you have some questions about that later, I'll be happy to answer that. How do you manage resources? You've got your salary bandings or your salary scales. You have to cast. By casting, it means hiring or assigning the right talent for specific tasks to be done. And hopefully your team or the overall makeup of your team has the talent or sufficient talent to properly tackle the challenges that a specific show presents. And so that is a very important part of the process. And you also have to make sure that you have a proper seniority mix, something I talked about earlier. Obviously, project management from top to bottom is absolutely critical. When you're in a studio that has, at any given point in time, 10, 12, 14 shows going, your project management teams might not all be working in the same way. It sounds kind of counterintuitive, but they actually tend to, there are habits that are formed and they tend to work in, have their different styles of working. That can be problematic. And at the end of the day, this is, one of the most critical aspects of getting your, surviving a project, and for your studios to survive long term, is that you can actually manage your projects and try to get a profit out of them. So that's internal project management. Obviously, you've got the client management as well, which is massive. I talked about mission creep earlier. Mission creep really speaks to managing expectations and scope control. So if those conversations don't happen at the beginning of the process or the bidding process, then once you get into actual production, it kind of becomes more difficult to open the conversation when expectations are not what you initially thought they were, and where you're having a hard time controlling the scope of the work. There are ways of working around this, and it's absolutely critical that this is mastered. And that's what you do with your supervisors team and your producers and your executive producers and your whole business development team. Obviously, training is critical. We have the 1% law in Quebec, where 1% of your payroll is supposed to be, you're supposed to spend the equivalent of 1% of your payroll in a given year for training. That is essential because it basically makes your team that much more efficient and skilled as you move forward. And so it's an obligation. It's not always a given that you can actually do that. I have too many shows. I don't have the time. We don't have the trainers, etc. But that is absolutely critical for the long-term health of the company. And then obviously financial control, which sort of speaks to project management, resource management, project bidding above. You can bid as, the project the best way possible. But if you don't have, almost real time live tracking of your costs and where you are in terms of how much money you've spent versus how far along in your work and your milestones and deliverables you are, if you can't track those two at the same time, at some point you're going to hit a wall and you're going to be in trouble. And obviously you've got tax incentive optimization. The Quebec industry has been, and in Canada and basically around the world, all the big centers are sort of built around tax incentives. And there are ways of just optimizing this and making sure that you're capturing as much of the tax incentives as you possibly can. Obviously, that goes to the bottom line of the company, to both to the project and to the company, and those are absolutely critical aspects of managing a company like this. So just to summarize what I've been talking about, small studios can limit their scope of work and they can rely on generalists to produce good work, but it can be a challenge for them to scale up. like I said, the larger studios have gone through that step, which is a high risk step and is a high stress. It's a very stressful process, but they're able to excel through specialization. But then they're faced with thinner margins, and one or two or three extraneous events can bring a studio to its knees. So they have to be very, very careful and react very quickly to those. Managing the studios is a high stakes balancing act between the creative impulses, all the technology that's being used or renewed, the different strategies that you're using, and really comes down a lot to wits. It comes down to can you endure the difficulties, because they can last a long time, and by a long time I mean between COVID and writer strikes and interest and tax credits incentive cuts and now Trump tariffs. The industry has been going through literally 5 years of constant challenge, which requires, I would say, intestinal fortitude to just keep going through it. In my humble opinion, if you've been a manager of one of these places, you've probably been to one of the best schools, which is not actually a school, but the school of life. It really is one of the best schools because it is chaotic. It is unpredictable. You have to learn so fast. And if you make mistakes, you'll pay for them right away. So there really is like a Darwinian sort of approach to it, where at the end of the day, if you survive long enough, you have learned a hell of a lot. I guess the next question then is, well, and it's on everybody's lips these days, how is AI going to impact these companies? Right now, I can say that at Framestore, AI has been used, but more on the sort of helping to manage certain aspects of production. And there are tests that are being done, but right now AI is not being used in generating any kind of images. So but we don't know what's in store. I think it's gonna be really interesting. I think I'll leave it up to Danny at this point. I just want to thank you for your attention. My apologies for muting inadvertently my microphone, but I'll be around if you have any questions for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Mm-hmm.
We share my file.
Yep.
You see the file?
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Peter. I'll do the second part, called AI Revolution. To talk about the future, I'd like to start with the past. And here's the Utah teapot, created in 1975 by a British guy doing his PhD project at the University of Utah, Martin Newell. And Utah was one of the first computer graphic hub in the world, having Salt Lake City with Evan Sutherland, a huge military research budget, Brigham Young as well. So I think a big chunk of the computer graphics started around there. So Martin was doing his PhD, and he asked his wife to what he's looking for some sort of a complex object, and she proposed the teapot, and this teapot stay really famous. The real teapot provided by his wife is exhibited at the Computer History Museum in Mountain View, California, and this teapot is running gag. You see the teapot in Pixar movie, and lots of scientists use it for expressing or showing other type of computer graphic accomplishment. The teapot was a big game changer. It was showing the first time that you can generate a realistic image just by computer calculation. And it started a huge frenzy of research and project and investment to speed up that technology and make it mainstream. And we see 1975 as the beginning of that era. 10 years later, you got 4 guys at the University of Montreal working for 2 years in their university basement, launching the Tony the Peltry at the SIGGRAPH, San Francisco SIGGRAPH in 1985. It was the first movie with a character, a fiction movie with a story, and it was a big hit and a big moment at that time. John Lasseter saw that movie and decided to switch from 2D animation to computer animation and created Pixar Studio with Steve Jobs the year after. So Tony the Peltry was a big moment in the industry. Nobody knows, but Montreal was a huge player in the industry, especially in the 90s. We have a small population, but I guess we were controlling more than 70% of the software and the production tool. Montreal is still important. Autodesk is still in Montreal and Houdini in Toronto. But in the 90s, it was a huge. We control a huge part of the production tools. 25 years later, 2000, we got Lord of the Ring, and at that point, I will say that it was the CGI reaching its full maturity. We were capable of creating by computer, by calculation, anything you can think of, and creating a huge epic sequence with 2,000 soldiers and horses and animals moving all together at the same time in having a realistic and convincing look was feasible at that time, as well as creating incredible characters that were also convincing and realistic and not possible to do without the CGI. So I think at that moment CGI has reached its peak, and it took 25 years since the teapot to get to that point. Today, 25 years later, I can't see a single movie that is not using CGI. I would say half of the business is for creating CGI sequence where you don't know that there is CGI involved, from fake rains to a landmark backdrop in a love movie. There is CGI everywhere because it's easier, faster, and cheaper. And there is thousands of situations where CGI will be faster than doing the shoot for real. So this is where we are in 2025. Of course, it's faster and cheaper and accessible to all sort of movie, including TV series and documentary. But 2025, I see it as another teapot moment, another revolution, a big event in the industry that I call the AI revolution. AI is basically merging 50 years of digital innovation with the limitless data of the internet and merging this in one big production tool. And it will be a way bigger game changer than the CGI, and it will be also much faster. Instead of 25 years, I can see in a 5-10 years window. AI will be involved in all aspects of the production, not just visual like CGI, but from script writing to up to the end of the project. Personally, I love AI. We were working on a movie last year. Amelia Earhart leaving Canada for his first solo flight to Paris. by mistake, she landed close to a small village in Ireland in 1932. And we had that script, and we asked AI to revise. One of the sequence was kids playing football in the backyard of the school, and AI proposed that another option would be they might play also shadow tag. That was really popular at that time, and say, oh, cool, shadow tags. It's more interesting than the usual football. And this is what I like with AI. It gives you options, and it gives you more ideas. And you can say yes, you can say no, but this is really interesting. This is really fun. This is really, this is a fantastic tool on my viewpoint. And it start with even scripting. I'm not very involved in documentary, but I guess that having access to the whole internet for documentary development would be also a fantastic tool. But basically, it gives you options, and this is the big point with AI. It's selecting the thousands of options that are offered. AI will be also involved in pre-development, storyboarding, pre-production. It can create your storyboard. We used to try to find storyboard artists, really difficult to find, really busy, and make sure that their style fit your project and do interview and stuff like that. I think AI will help a lot in that direction for storyboarding and development, also pre-production planning, budget, production schedule, and so on. There is all AI tool that will help on this. One of the most interesting thing will be casting. You can design your own character the way you see it from scratch. So instead of calling a casting agency and asking for asking for a reference or asking for their cast and doing interview and all this, you can create and model your character from scratch. You can also, just by giving text information or written information, you can also provide some reference to increase or to help the modeling in the direction that you are looking for. You can also input 3 different references and ask to merge this thing plus your textual information, and at the end you create the character that you have in mind. This is just incredible. We are at the beginning of this, but it will help you create realistic character or totally unrealistic character the way you want. I see at the moment AI more effective for realistic imagery than animation. This is because there is so much reference from realistic image on the internet and less images on animation, especially 2D animation. So AI is not that good at the moment for 2D animation, but is really good at the moment for realistic imagery. Sorry for that. Same thing for voice. Instead of calling a casting agency for voiceover, looking at different demo and portfolio, and having interview and seeing if the voice is the right voice for your projects. You can design voices from scratch, from text information or description, and then you can sample a voice that you like, and you can say, okay, use 20% of that voice and 50% of the other voice and make it more this or that. So it's like designing voices the way you want that represent exactly what you're looking for to fit with your characters. This is also the same thing for music generator. It will help a lot for score and music composition. So all that by AI and with the right tool. Finally, AI can also produce the sequence itself based on your characters, based on your voices, and based on your description. It can create the background, the environment, insert your characters in there, and make it move. AI will also be helpful for post-production, helping for editing, and helping for color grading, and providing a final product. So I think AI, in that sense, is much more complete in terms of tool that computer graphics. It will be involved at any level of the production. Actually, I'm quite connected with good AI artists. I think AI will be a golden age for artists that have directing, that have a director profile. These are images from a good friend of mine who is producing alone by himself a full feature film, and plan to do it for the next Berlin Film Festival. So we are seeing one solo artist producing a full feature film in his basement with no budget, and from the beginning to the end in a time frame of 4 to 6 months. I saw some sequence of it, and Pedro told me that he's already 40 minutes completed. But this is a really big game changer. Like one single guy doing a full feature film alone with no budget. That would be a big game changer in the industry. And I think the right profile for using AI at its best will be basically being a director, and you have almost a virtual studio working for you with expertise in every field. And again, working with AI is selecting the right proposal, the right option among 10,000 offers. I like to stay connected with what's going on in AI by going to a short film festival that you can see online. And there is 3 festivals there. You can see short animated or short film AI film created by solo artists. But it's interesting to see, the winner of 2 years ago with the winner of last year and the winner of this year, how fast it goes, and the improvement in quality and so on. It also helps you stay connected with what's going on in the AI industry and technology. So you can have a note this, and I like to have a look on this festival, once in a while to stay updated. Yes, a solo artist can provide or can produce maybe alone. I will say a personal film in 4 months and go to a festival. I think another thing that might be a big question would be, can we scale AI to inside a studio to make it even faster? And of course, the answer is yes. We can basically scale AI with different departments, from script writing to character creation and modeling and animation and production, and maybe have a more efficient pipeline than one solo guy, and maybe eventually produce one TV series per week. I think AI might go up to that level. It's a question of time, but it's quite easy to see that AI would be capable of scaling this technology and split it in different departments and create a more efficient pipeline based on AI approach. Also, I think AI might be also useful for innovation, not just creating faster stuff. One example, I was involved in development of a TV series called Memory. It was an AI TV series. Of course, we use AI for script assistance, AI for creating the characters, AI for creating the voice and music, and AI for animation and post-production. But we say that we had AI also for something that it was unusual. We create an AI interactive portal. Basically, the goal or the idea behind this was, let's have a portal along with the TV series where we can talk with the characters. So we have spent 1 year training our characters to teach them who they are, what is their role in this universe, what is their relation with the other characters of the universe, what is the whole universe, and try to remove all other information not related to this universe, and make it very interesting, interactive character to talk with the audience. We don't know where it goes. It's not a video game. It's not a linear TV series. It's basically a new media that that is possible because of AI. This is what I call AI innovation that were not existing before. And we discovered that by talking with this character, we learn more about the audience. Also, it's a repeat process. People might watch one episode of the TV series, but go 20 times to the portal to talk with the characters. It can also be hints for creating future episodes based on what the audience like or talk or say. But we are just at the beginning of that process, and we don't know where it's going to lead. But this is a good example of just not AI doing what we do actually faster, but having new media or giving new tools or new media option for us. So this portal, we have actually 2 characters that are speaking 5 languages, and we did some lot of testing with some user group, and I think it's really interesting. We don't know how far it can go. Can we think about this portal more interesting and more popular than the TV series itself? This is what I like. We are just beginning of exploring all sort of new innovative approach that were not possible without AI before. So AI, I see it as a new big Utah teapot where it's a total creative reset. I think it's a very good tool for, I would say, director-driven artist. Also, it can be a very, very good tool or a very golden area for entrepreneur and new manager. I think we will need manager that goes along with that new creative reset and start from there, going further. So this is my, I say on AI at the moment. I think we are just at the beginning. If you want to know more about our future program and how to register, how to how to know about the requirement and so on, we will have 2 sessions on May 15, so you can have a look on this. And I think we will take some question. If I don't know if we have too much time, but we might take some question in the chat room if you have a question on these 2 presentations. Thank you.
That was amazing. You guys are amazing. I'm gonna look and wait for the chat. So much to think about, I guess, as someone who's not in this field, that you don't realize and how much potential is there leading up in the future. So I'll keep an eye out on the chat if there's any questions or comments. And again, we'll go back to, I'll just reiterate, we're having an online information session next week. One at 12 to 1, and one at 6 to 7. So you can join. I put the links to register in the chats. You can ask any of your questions about programs, different programs, fees, registration processes, what to expect, and get some additional support. So I'll leave that in the chat, and invite you guys, if you have any questions about any of the sections of the presentations, or any comments or feedbacks or experiences, please feel free to share. I personally learned that nothing is going to be the same in 10 years. Like, things are just going to change, but things are just going to change. It's really quick, right? Like, it feels like it's super slow, but it'll just change. Oh, I have a question from the audience. Jean-Bernard, what do you think of the ethical implications of using the work of thousands of artists as a source for AI creation when it's being used to replace them? I don't know if that, who can answer to that?
Again, I think AI is proposing, and you have to choose and select. Let's go back to a standard movie. You are planning a movie, and you are planning to develop, I don't know, some new character or a monster or something like that. And you call for, I don't know, 4 or 5 concept artists, and they come here and they work with you. And to brief these concept artists, you do your own research yourself, and you look on internet or other movie, and you say, oh, I like that movie with that character, and you use already, public domain or well-known imagery as a source of inspiration. And then you brief your concept artist, and they are, let's say, three guys doing it. And these people also look on the internet and look at reference or books and use, also other images as their own source of inspiration. And at the end, you got a collage of your briefing with your own research and their research and their reference, and they put all that together, and they provide you this, I don't know, 5 different concepts. I have the feeling that AI is doing the exact same thing. It's a collage of your briefing that can also be done by text, or recommendation or indication, plus a lot of reference from all over the place, and do that collage, and you tweak it. It's difficult at the moment to know which one is best, which one was okay for the copyright, and which one is not okay for the copyright. I think it's an open question, but it's important to understand also how was created the things before AI. And I think it's a collage of lots of sources of inspiration plus briefing plus a final product that is the result of all these process. Of course, it's in the hand of the producer and the creator to make sure that it's unique, and it's it will be a big discussion, and I cannot answer about all the copyright elements that will come from AI technologies, but I find it very similar to what we used to do with real artists.
Thank you for the answer. He says thank you for the answer.
I'm not a legal person, so I'm just talking about as a producer point of view, right?
All right. Well, I'm not sure. I think a lot of people are at work, so they may have to be headed back. So I think this is a good point to kind of wrap it up. I want to say thank you both. That was phenomenal. I learned a lot. You have, for those in the chat as well, you have the interest form in the chat and the registration form for the information session. So feel free to click onto those. I believe that you will have access to a copy of this presentation again to go through it. It'll be shared at the end of this presentation in probably a day or so. So thank you all. Thank you everyone who attended.